This program is brought to you by Pussy Magnets.
Put a midge on your friends with a pussy magnet.
Welcome, my lovely lumps. Or should I say lovely labs? I'm so thrilled to have you here in the Labia Lounge. We're going to yarn about all things sexuality, womanhood, relationships, intimacy, holistic health, and everything in between. Your legs. Ooh, can't help myself. Anyway, we're going to have vag loads of real chats with real people about real shit. So buckle up, you're about to receive the sex ed that you never had and have a bloody good laugh while you're at it. Before we dive in, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording this, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. It's an absolute privilege to be living and creating dope podcast content in Naarm, and I pay respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. Now, if you're ready, let's flap and do this. Oh my God, is there such thing as too many vagina jokes in the one intro? Whatever, it's my podcast. I'm leaving it in.
Don't panic, you're not broken. Your sex education was a piece of shit. Get your flaps out and pull up a couch. It's the Labia Lounge.
Hey labial lovers, welcome back. This is the final installment of Labia Lounge Live at the Summer of Love Festival, where I set up the big pussy couch and the velvet curtains and the orange shag rug and the lava lamps, and I invited poor unsuspecting punters to come and sit on the couch with me and talk about sex. So if you haven't caught up on the last two episodes, we asked about some embarrassing sex stories. I discussed the most debaucherous thing people had ever done. We talked about first-time sex experiences, and of course, some TMI and sandy clams sprinkled in. And this week, I asked people what they think is, for them personally and just in the greater scheme of things, missing in average sex. So these are just real people that came and had a chat with me. There's quite a few common threads that I noticed a lot of people were mentioning. And so from this, I can take that a lot of us are feeling the lack of certain things in, the sex that we're having. Which is obviously why I'm passionate and why I'm in the job. But I just thought it'd be really interesting to kind of do a bit of a survey and just ask people for their thoughts and their opinions and what they want more of or less of, and so that you could also learn from this. So I'll let you get stuck into these and enjoy. If you have any stories or answers to these questions that I've been asking in the last few episodes, please get in touch. Send them to me. You can send a voicey or you can just text it to me and I can read it out anonymously. I would just love to hear from you. That's what this poddy's all about. So yeah, I'll let you get to it now. What do you think is missing from most average sexual encounters?
Honesty. If I was to put it in one word, I would say that it's that maybe, people need to work on truly connecting to their own individual authenticity and to their own individual honesty and truth. And from that place, they can help each other in an honest way really understand what their true needs, desires, wants, cravings, passions are, boundaries, no-go zones, whatever that may be. But essentially, I think, if you can really hone in on your own heart, that is probably the most precious work that each of us can individually do. And then from that place, you will create just much more gifted and beautiful relationships all around you, sexual relationships, friendships, families. And exactly. Real intimacy is actually allowing someone to see into you, right? Into me, you see. It's allowing someone. And I think that just takes real inner honesty with yourself and not being afraid to see yourself first, not being afraid to see what's inside you, and then also not being afraid to show someone else what's in there, Yeah.
I think a genuine care for the person, because it's especially we're in the age of Tinder and all, everything is so a menu, also with advertising and things like that, and it's just like, sure, you see the image of someone and you think like you could be interested, but maybe you're not even like actually interested on a mental and like spiritual heart level, only like for what you've seen or like the image that presents.
I don't know, maybe variety. Like, I like a bit of everything. I don't have too many boundaries. So yeah, variety for me is key. Variety is the spice of life.
Right on. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Easy as.
You know, like I wouldn't say I'm that in touch with what your average person is up to. But yeah, I mean, I guess if you're talking about average sex, what's average sex? It's non-connective sex. So to me, that's sex where there's no emotional connection is the worst kind of sex. And that's the sex I just try and avoid like the plague. But I've had plenty of it when I was younger, and that didn't seem like such a big deal. And then learning that, oh, hang on, if I'm emotionally connected to my partner, we're both going to have a really good time, kind of no matter what happens. Yeah, it's like just, you go through that portal and you're like, that's the kind of sexual encounters I want to have and nothing else.
And understanding that when you share yourself in that vulnerable space, you're sharing your entire energy body with another, and you're receiving the information of their energy body and sharing yours, and it's a union of your energy bodies coming to be one. And if you're not aware of that, you can take on things from their energy body that you might not have wanted to, but you can also share things of your energy body that you might not have wanted to.
What do you think is missing from the average like sexual encounter? Like the kind of average sex that people are having, like what's missing?
Yeah. I think like conversation along the entire journey. Like obviously consent, check-ins, gauging what feels good, but also I find it really hot when someone's exploring my body or I'm exploring theirs, for me to talk them through what they're doing, and by guiding that experience I can create what I want, and they feel very validated that it's like, cool, I'm doing the right thing, or I'm guiding in the direction of what I do want. And I think it's really hot to know that someone's on the same page in the same moment with you and consensually just enjoying the fuck out of that chemistry. It just makes sex and you know, exploration and chemistry way more safe, exciting and expansive.
I was going to say communication, but I think like that playfulness and like, you know, I mean, I don't know, I'm not someone who's been in a long-term relationship for a very, very long time, so I haven't...
Casual sex as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about how I get kind of like, it's partly like maybe not wanting to make anyone feel uncomfortable, but then you're communicating by being awkward and not like communicating about it.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, I find you hot. Like, is that okay? Like, do you want to explore that? Like, you know, come out with me for a drink. I struggle with that because I mean, casual sex, like, and I guess the communication around that, like, often you get into a situation where you're like, and you know, all the navigating around that afterwards is hard. And it's great when you meet someone and it is very, either they're very direct, and they're just like, look, these are my expectations, and like we can talk about it, and you feel comfortable, rather than like ghosting. Like,
Do you feel like you need to be with someone quite direct for that to flow, or can you be the direct person that's just really straight up?
I think feelings. Look, it shouldn't be sort of dependent on the other person, really, but it kind of is. Like, it's your energy. So I suppose, like, feeling. I think I've learning to be direct and like what I want and everything, but at the same time you sort of make allowances for people. You kind of, but then you end up getting taken advantage of.
Intimacy and innocence.
Innocence, explain.
Innocence. Both people don't know what's about to happen next. They're both finding their way, and there's where the magic lies, in wonder.
Damn, girl. Yeah, that's pretty nice.
You're welcome. Understanding love is something I've been very interested in because I wanted to know how to do it well. I think that's the ability to be present with the person you're with, and if you're not if I'm not comfortable, I'll ask for what I need, not without expectation. That. And generally speaking, it always works out better for me when I'm giving, sharing first. Like sharing my insecurity, sharing like, hey, I'm not quite ready yet. Like, that's reassuring because I'm not in a hurry.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That would be very refreshing, I think, for partners.
Yeah, I've done a lot of men's work to really connect to my emotions. I found for myself that once I could name them, I could tame them. So instead of having an imagination that rode me at times and crushed me under its feet, I would get back up, take the reins and steer. Yeah. It's taken me some time to get there, right? But all young men are on their own journey and they're finding that out for themselves at different times, which is why innocence, like definitely know how to say no as a woman. I couldn't encourage you more to know how to say no, and I'd empower that. And know that can be misused as well. And that can really destroy men's hearts. Like, I know what heartbreak feels like as well. So even though I speak as directly as I can to the most wonderful direction I can envisage, there are blind spots in me too.
I can definitely say communicating our needs for both sides and staying put. Staying comfortably, hearing, listening, and giving, as we know this is just for both sides to have fun.
Hey baby babes. Sorry to interrupt, I just had to pop my head into the lounge here and mention another virtual lounge that I'd love you to get around. It's the Labia Lounge Facebook group that I've created for listeners of the potty to mingle in. There you'll find extra bits and bobs like freebies, behind the scenes, or discounts for offerings from guests who have been interviewed on the podcast. There'll also be, hopefully, inspiring, thought-provoking conversations and support from a community of labial legends like yourself. My vision for this is that it becomes a really supportive, educational and hilarious resource for you to have more access to me and a safe space to ask questions you can't ask anywhere else. So head over to the links in the show notes or look up the Labia Lounge group in Facebook and I'll see you in there. And now, back to the episode.
Yeah, I think what missing is a lot of like taking the time and just put so much more attention is just like gentle touch and just like eye contact and not just rushing into
and do you think like you need that gentle approach with more time and more eye contact, or do you feel like it's mostly like, because a lot of people are like, oh, females need that but like men don't need that, like what do you reckon?
Yeah, definitely women need it more. Like personally, I'm like so more like feeling orientated. I'm more like feminine in general. I need to like warm up my masculinity more because I need to find a balance, I think, because like my ex-girlfriend was like separating, like we broke up because I was too feminine.
Right, just in sex or like in day-to-day, like the dynamic between
in day-to-day I was needing more support and I could not like be like, you know, the supporting man. And it's also in fact my sexuality, because like women needs this, like, you know, like masculine, like someone who can, you know, like take responsibility, hold the situation.
Yeah, not always though. You could find a woman who's got like a really healthy masculine side that really enjoys taking charge and initiating and being the person that, you know, leads or holds space.
Yeah.
You know, and you can kind of find a balance that like suits you. Maybe like more commonly like women would want like, you know, that masculine like space holding, but like not everyone. I think that's a bit of a binary, like kind of tantric perspective that I don't think necessarily has to be make or break. But it is like finding someone compatible with you, I guess, that like doesn't need to be in that like more kind of feminine or like receptive or I guess like it sounds like you're saying you need quite a lot of support, quite a lot of like holding to feel safe, to feel comfortable. But then if the woman also needs that amount, it's like who's doing it?
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess just finding someone who needs less of that so that they can give you more of that, and then it balances itself out.
Yeah, I feel like I just need to balance myself, you know? I want to feel the man, like...
Why have you always been like this? Do you think there's like a blockage that stops you from being more expressed in terms of your like masculine side, or why do you think that is something you struggle with, like that you want to change?
Because like all my life I was like super connected to feelings and like emotions, and yeah, I found it like a lot of women find it like super attractive, and then they maybe they want to have sex with me, or they just want to have me as a friend, but I'm missing like, you know, like this. I want women to look at me as a man you can count on, and
solid, reliable,
yeah, and you know, like just like being like so driven by just emotions all the time. My life is so chaotic. Like I feel like, you know, I just blown in the wind. Like so hard for me to take decisions.
All right, that's fair. I was like, you don't need to change yourself. Why would you want? But I get it. Like that's hard. That's like it's not sustainable to be like that all the time.
Exactly, and I think like we're gonna change if we want or not, you know, and. Like if we not direct our change to a more balanced change, to see like where we want to be, like how to make that like the best ourselves. Yeah, so in my personal journey, I'm just like putting more focus on like appreciating my masculinity and just like going back to my manhood.
Yeah, rock on. Good luck.
Thank
you. I think what's missing is people not being honest with themselves and each other about if there's a vibe and what they want. So by that I mean like sometimes you're just like, I just want sex, like anyone will do, but like it's not that magnetic attraction. There's not like that gritty, real, like I want you like deeply. It's kind of just like I've got this like annoying little itch on my ankle and I just want to scratch it and like get rid of it sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think like sometimes it's better to just like abstain a bit longer actually and like play in that space of celibacy and be like, and I'm gonna wait for like that yes, like full yes to be there.
I think it's not worth it because people can get hurt or get the wrong idea, or there's different levels of like of investment in it. Or...
I mean, I wish that that's the line I was going down, and I'm not saying that's false, but like yes, no, I'm just thinking purely from like a quality perspective, because like the really satisfying encounters is when it's just like yes. I'm doing too many facial expressions and gestures that won't come through. It's not a TV show.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, for me, over the years, it's been like, I can only talk from my personal experience of what I've been missing in that arena, but just like an energetic element to it, where there's not just like this actionable thing that's happening. It's like spirit and soul are involved, and that's something I've been yearning for a long time, and feeling that connectedness on a different level and a different plane. And you know, I've had that in many other experiences throughout my life, with very short-term partners, or when I've been polyamory, for example. But like I would say, maybe a lot of people in their sex life miss that, like I guess you could say, divine connection. Really attunement to their partner. Like, I think the attunement's a really big one. And consistent attunement as well.
Totally.
Yeah, and as a vulva owner, it's like, I feel like it's pivotal in opening me up. So without that attunement, without that spiritual connection to some level, whether you believe in spirituality or religion or whatever, it's like, for me, it's needed in order to orgasm fully and surrender. So yeah, that's something I personally miss.
Totally. Yeah, and I think like so many people are very disconnected from their own bodies and their own pleasure to the point where, of course, it's going to be difficult for them to be in attunement with your body and pleasure
if they can't tune to theirs.
Like energetic blockage. Where you're just not able to meet in that space, and it is a little bit more mechanical, and people can be intuitive, but I feel like we're getting more and more disconnected to that, and I think like a lot of just regular run-of-the-mill kind of mainstream.
I don't think I can have sex like that anymore.
Oh God, no.
No
way.
And there's part of me that's like, oh, I really wish I could, but then I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
that's like so me in my 20s.
I know. Well, I never really enjoyed it, and I think like, it probably depends on like your erotic blueprint. Like if you're a really sexual or kinky type, then maybe the physical act and the visuals of it and the positions and just the excitement of like fucking gets you there. But like I'm way more into the emotional and the energetic and like the sensory rather than like the act of having sex and like giving a BJ or like whatever. Like that stuff doesn't excite me or turn me on if it's devoid of the emotional and the energetic connection.
And I think that's the case with a lot of women. You know, it's how it's a big part of how we're built, and not to stigmatize it to gender, but foreplay, man. Foreplay. Can you explain a bit about erotic? What did you say? Yeah, what does that mean?
So it's like a framework Miss Jaya created. There's 5 of them, I think, and there's also different frameworks. So some people are like, oh, it's a little bit too like prescriptive or like limiting or whatever. But generally, you know, her take is that you fall into like a main category, like 1 or 2 main categories of these erotic blueprints, and one of them is kinky, one of them is energetic, one of them is sexual, which means like you just really get turned on by like the acts, like the mechanical acts of having sex and like the visuals of that and just like the idea of sex, and you know, like quite, you know, spontaneously turned on and horny over that. And one of them is sensual, so like more like, actually, energetic and sensual, are they different? Dude, I'm not an expert on the erotic blueprints, I've forgotten. But, it's just like, you can do a little quiz online and find out, like, what your kind of highest one is. It's a little bit like love languages, like how you connect sexually and get the most turned on and what works for you in that kind of space. And if it's kind of compatible with your partner, or if you've got different ones, you can kind of use that framework to figure out how best to approach one another to like get the most pleasure and turn on.
I'm gonna totally do that. I think I'd definitely be more in the energetic sphere.
You definitely would be.
Excuse this quick interruption. I'm shamelessly seeking reviews and 5-star ratings for the potty because, as I'm sure you've noticed by now, it's pretty fab, and the more people who get to hear it, the more people I can help with it. Reviews and ratings actually do make a big difference to this little independent podcaster, and it's really easy to just quickly show your support by taking that simple act of either leaving 5 stars for the show on Spotify, or even better, writing a written review and leaving 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts. Or if you're a real overachiever, you can do them both. That would be mad. If you're writing a review, though, just be sure to use G-rated words, because despite the fact that this is a podcast about sexuality, words like sex can be censored and your review won't make it through the gates. Lame. Anyway, I would personally recommend doing that right now while you remember, just to get on top of it and let me know you're with me on this journey. Thanks, gang. Enjoy the rest of the epi.
Heroing female pleasure is probably missing from most standard.
Do you listen to the podcast already?
I don't, but you know, I'm just a woman who's lived my life. like it being a, you know, non-judgment. And I was a person who wasn't able to orgasm other than me doing it until my current partner. So like years and years of having sex, and there was always just like, I'm gonna be the one, and like,
oh my God,
and it was just like,
totally. And then it just puts more pressure
yeah,
on you.
and then they get all
Who's
weird
the
about
pleasure
it
for?
if I was doing it, and it was like this whole thing, and it's just been like, and then with my current partner, he was just like, okay, sweet, you do you, boom, and then it meant that it didn't have to just be me doing it because that whole pressure was taken off. So I think just like heroing women's pleasure, and just in whatever form that comes and whatever journey that takes, and just not in a pressurized way, not in a like it has to come from penetrative sex, or it has to come from cunnilingus, or it has to come from just like giving it a go, seeing what feels lovely, and making that a thing. Because most men I talk to are like, there's like average sex and good sex, but there's very rarely bad sex for men. In what the conversations that I've had, and that's a generalization, and I'm sure there's obviously a spectrum of that, but the majority of it feels pretty mostly fine, whereas a lot of women's sex is just painful and shit. So kind of changing that dynamic is what's missing for women's sex, I think. Which is why lesbian relationships have the best sex statistically.
Because
the
they're
most
both orgasms,
the most orgasms. Because they're both just female sex oriented.
Awesome. Great answer.
Thank you.
People's understanding of their own pleasure. People's understanding of their own self and embodiment, and that everything in that moment you can only receive as much as you can actually like hold for yourself. And so I was married for 10 years, together with my ex-husband for 12. So over that time, you know, there's so much safety and so much exploration because you're completely safe with each other. So I feel like when I go into a dating scene, you know, into an intimate relationship now or a connection now, I come with that sense of like I've explored myself by myself and also with a partner for a long term. And I've noticed that men who have had lots of partners actually are less likely to be able to be really connected in that moment because they've never actually had to get past like into that vulnerability stage and doing so-called, you know, embarrassing things during sex and like, you know, and being uncomfortable and like, you know, all the things that you do when you're with someone for long term. So I feel like that's missing, and I feel like women are so much better at tapping into our own pleasure that is not just about our vaginas. And we go slower, and it's all those beautiful things, and men can either just be like a stiff board, or they don't know what to do with it, and then they actually freeze and have a freeze response, and you know. So I feel like that's really missing. I've not found that. I've not found anyone who can meet me in that way. So yeah, stick to Rosie's toys.
Shout out Rosie.
And that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed this. I'd love to hear your feedback because obviously this isn't the usual format for the podcast and it's quite a new experiment that I'm doing. So would love it if you got in touch, sent me a message, let me know how you're finding it. And you can look forward to getting back to the regular old episodes where I interview just one guest expert at a time per episode, which is a little bit more palatable maybe for some of you. I know these episodes with all the loud background music and everything like that, very chaotic. But yeah, it's a fun new format. So thanks for sticking with me if you've come this far. And that's it, darling hearts. Thank you for stopping by the Labia Lounge. Your bum groove in the couch will be right where you left it, just waiting for you to sink back in for some more double L action next time. And in the meantime, if you'd be a dear and subscribe, share this episode, or leave a review on iTunes, then you can pat yourself on the snatch because that, my dear, is a downright act of sex-positive feminist activism. And you'd be supporting my vision to educate, empower, demystify, and destigmatize with this here podcast. Also, I'm always open to feedback, topic ideas that you'd love to hear covered, or guest suggestions. So feel free to get in touch via my website at freyagraph.com or say hey over on Insta. My handle is Freya_graph_YMT, and I seriously hope you're following me on there because damn, we have fun. We have fun. Anyway, later labial legends. I'll see you next time. Hey, me again. If you'd like to support the potty and you've already given it 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening on, I want to mention that you can buy some really dope merch from the website and get yourself a Labia Lounge tote, tee, togs. Yep, you heard that right. I even have Labia Lounge bathers. Or a cute fanny pack if that'd blow your hair back. So if fashion isn't your passion though, you can donate to my Buy Me a Coffee donation page, which is actually called Buy Me a Soy Chai Latte, because I'll be the first to admit I'm a bit of a Melbourne cafe tosser like that. And yes, that is my coffee order. You can do a once-off donation or an ongoing membership and sponsor me for as little as 3 fat ones a month. And I also offer one-on-one coaching and online courses that'll help you level up your sex life and relationship with yourself and others in a really big way. So every bit helps, because it ain't cheap to put out a sweet podcast into the world every week out of my own pocket. So I will be undyingly grateful if you support me and my biz financially in any of these ways. And if you like, I'll even give you a mental BJ with my mind from the lounge itself. Saucy. I'll pop the links in the show notes. Thank you. Later.